The shocking truth about alien implants. DARPA's human tracking agenda exposed.
We have such sights to show you.
All right, so in this video, I'm going to be giving you a very interesting take. I believe it's the truth. I believe that there's evidence, that there's proof out there to verify this. Unfortunately, most people aren't even looking for this, but it's very easily found. There are 2 links in the description. Watch them. Don't be lazy. Watch the 2 links that I provide. They will give backup to things I'm saying here. This is the world we're living in now is the ultimate science fiction conspiracy movie ever made. So let's get into it here. So normally when we talk about alien implants, now this isn't something that has been mentioned for years. I'm old enough to remember. I can remember from the 1960s up into the 1980s, alien implants was big news. People were talking about it all the time. There were even news spots that were devoted to it, where people would come and talk about these strange, and they'd have these strange metallic objects that were placed into their bodies by aliens. And doctors would talk about how they had surgically removed these bulky, weird implants that had been put into people, and some of them would, disappear on contact with the air, or all kinds of strange things like that. So we don't talk about implants now, and that's important. We don't talk about alien implants, but we talk about human beings implanting humans. But you don't hear about alien implants anymore. And so there's a question, why is that? We're going to get into why that is. I'm going to be showing you what the history of this and what all of that alien implant abduction stuff was really all about. So back in the 80s, it was very common to have scenes like this that you'd hear about, people being abducted on alien spaceships, and aliens not only experimenting on them on all different ways, but implanting them physically with these implants. Oh, what is that? That actually is not an alien implant. That is an actual implant, a skin tattoo that is being created by people closely associated with DARPA. And if you look at it, it's got all kinds of very fancy things, and it's designed to do something very specific. Again, watch the link below, but let's go ahead and talk about it. So, truth about alien implants. So there is this tattoo for authentication. I say that in quotes. It is being presented as a skin tattoo for human authentication. What the heck does that mean? We're going to find out. Inside of these tattoos, there are wires, there's antennae, and they're implanted in the skin. And it's even talked about that you could put an actual tattoo over it and make it look cool. Watch the link below. You can hear these people say this ridiculous nonsense. But again, this is the implant. And you can see there, it's got temperature sensors, it's got an LED, it's got wireless power, it's got wireless communication oscillator, wireless antenna. It's got all this stuff, and you'll see it's about this big or something. You could put it on your forearm, and it's designed to give you access to things, and they're calling it authentication, and they're going to market it to you that this is a good thing. This is for your safety. Look, we've been trained to believe this means something. Again, I'm old enough to be really annoyed whenever I go somewhere and I want to log into my YouTube account, if I go to another state or another country, YouTube requires me, I don't have a choice, it requires me to authenticate it by triangulating with my phone and my iPad. They tell me that's for my security. It's not for my security. It doesn't matter if I have a code or if I have a password. They say I have to use my iPad and my phone and triangulate it. And that's only done for one reason. It's so that they can track my exact location. It's the only reason for that. And so if you're watching this and you just do this mindlessly and you think this is for your protection, what do you think a password is for? Well, somebody could steal your password. Guess what? Somebody could steal your iPhone and your iPad. They could steal the authentication for your iPod and your iPod and your iPad, your iPhone and your iPad. It doesn't make things. If somebody really wanted to do that, they could easily find ways to get that information. So you're being set up. You're being set up to believe that you need to have this authentication. And now instead of having 2 steps or 3 steps, which again, the whole point of that is to be able to use your iPad and your iPhone and your computer to be able to triangulate your exact location. That's the whole point of that. And so that your iPad and your iPhone and your computer and your smart TV can communicate with each other. I've got like everybody else now, we've got a smart TV in the house that I rent. And I watch YouTube on there, but I don't log in. So if I believe what's being presented to me, there's no way that television can know what I'm typing in on my search engine on my computer, because they're not linked. It keeps asking me to log in, and I say no. But it knows what I've just searched for on my computer. So if you don't think that my computer isn't already communicating with every smart device in existence, they already know everything about who you are and what you are. So this nonsense about authentication is about simply tracking you. It's the only thing, but it gets even worse. These implants, authentication means having the ability to access things. And again, it's going to be presented to you as this is for your safety. Nobody can steal anything from you or break into your house or et cetera, et cetera. So we've got these tattoos for authentication that have wires, antenna implanted in the skin that supposedly look cool for the kids. That's literally a quote. The kids will think that it looks cool. It's authentication, which means allows you access to your house, your car, your bank account, and more. If you watch the link below, the woman who is associated with DARPA, she will say that this tattoo is what gives you access to your home, gives you access to your car. It's understood that it's authentication means access to your bank account, access to everything, which means there's the negative side of it, which is if this thing gives you access to all of these things, it means that this thing can also deny you access to all of these things. So if you end up once they digitize money, I mean, it's already digitized, but when it becomes mandatory that money is digitized in a central government-run location, then all they have to do is just simply turn off the switch, and you can't get access to your ATM, you can't get access to your house, you can't get access to your car unless you knuckle under. That's what this is all about. And it gets even better. There's a daily vitamin pill. Watch the link below. And this is interesting because the vitamin pill is triggered by stomach acid. And this will also be used to authenticate you. So this same woman talks about how wonderful it is that you can simply take a vitamin, she calls it a vitamin, it's the size of a pill, you put it in and your stomach acid triggers it, turns it on, and now you're a walking transceiver. And you can be tracked anywhere. And then your body will activate it. You walk up to your door will open. You walk up to your car. I mean, my car does this when I'm carrying the key fob. Yours probably does it too. And my car's like 10 years old. But if I walk up to the car and I'm holding the key fob, the door will unlock. So you become a key fob. Your car will unlock for you, your house will unlock for you, your ATM will unlock for you. But guess what? All they have to do is turn it off and you can't get access to any of it. And it's in a pill form. Of course, we know they have implants that are much smaller than that. All right, so what does this have to do with alien abductions? All right, so I'm old enough to remember this, but in the 1960s through the 1980s, alien abductees reported being implanted with these bulky tracking devices. Now, at the time, this, of course, we were being gaslit. We were being, played one side against the other, and the media, like movies, television, and news programs, were constantly talking about alien abductions. There were movies about them, books about them. Look at how successful Whitley Strieber has been. This is, he's probably the most famous and well-known abductee. I've met with an actual abductee, an alien abductee. So let me just say before we go any further, alien abductions are real. They really do happen. There are people who are abducted by strange-looking beings that look just like the gray aliens you've heard of, and these people get taken up onto ships. They're put into states where they can't move. They have all kinds of strange things happen to them. They're taken against their will. It's very frightening. They levitate through the ceiling and up into the air. I spoke with a woman who experienced this, and I can tell when somebody's either lying or deluded, and she was telling the truth. She wasn't insane, and she was telling the truth. And she said that her alien abduction experience was exactly like what Whitley Strieber writes about in his books and in his movies. So you have to ask the question, why was this stuff so promoted? I could go on and on about Whitley Strieber, but I'm not here to attack him or his character. But these events are real. The question isn't whether or not gray aliens are abducting humans, experimenting on them, stealing their sexual DNA and creating hybrids, putting probes in places that they don't belong, frightening them, doing telepathic and psychological experiments on them. This is a fact. The question is, who is doing it? We are led to believe it's extraterrestrials. But when you really look at the evidence, you find out very quickly that the evidence is pointing to a human source for this. This is not coming from extraterrestrials. It's coming from human beings with incredibly high-level technology, very powerful technology that is so advanced you've never heard anything like it. They get access to you telepathically with machines that create frequencies, put thoughts in your head, experiences in your head, and they have now. It's been people have talked about how they were almost abducted by aliens, and turns out that these aliens were actually robots. They were, wires and transistors, but they look a lot like aliens. So they're either, AIs that are able to walk around, or there's somebody back there with some kind of a device that's controlling how they move, some kind of, Game Boy pad. This is what is going on, and the proof for that is there if people look at it. Unfortunately, and frustratingly for me, people do not go to Dr. Greer's website, and they don't do any research of the huge amounts of receipts this guy has. Anyway, go check out Dr. Greer's website if you want to find out what alien abductions are really about. All right, so between the 1960s and 1980s, alien abductees reported being implanted with bulky tracking devices. The alien implants were big, bulky, and primitive devices. So it brings the question, were aliens inept engineers? Again, you've got this irrational scenario you're being presented, which is that these are supposedly extremely advanced beings who are millions of years ahead of us technologically and intellectually and otherwise, and they can travel faster than the speed of light. They can fold space and go through wormholes and get to Earth, but for some reason they can't figure out how to do real basic stuff, like how to track you. We can do that now. We don't have to implant somebody to track them. We have all kinds of technologies that allow us to track game and track human beings. We have all kinds of stuff. We don't have to implant them. So if you've got these beings who are so advanced they can, go faster than the speed of light and go through wormholes and go to another planet hundreds, thousands, millions of light years away, but they have to implant you with a big bulky thing, while you're strapped down on a gurney somewhere. Why did nobody think of the disconnect there? It doesn't make any sense. But that was from the 1960s to the 1980s, and then it suddenly stopped. All of a sudden, you didn't hear about alien implants unless somebody was abducted, in the 1980s. All right, alien implants were big, bulky, primitive devices. Were aliens just inept engineers? Why do we still hear about alien abductions but not about abductions with crude implants? And again, I remember there would be doctors who would show up on these news programs, and they would be showing these really big, bulky, weird-looking metallic implants, and they'd say, I took this out of somebody's, and they'll even have being videotaped as they're operating on the guy's foot or whatever and taking out some weird looking thing that doesn't belong there, and then they'll look at it and go, the metal in this is this isn't anything that human beings have ever made. Aliens, they're so advanced that they have to put big bulky things into your arm so that they can track you. That sounded, in the 1960s, and the 70s, and the 80s, that sounded like science fiction because we were so behind the curve technologically. That sounded like a big deal. But now we know that we can implant. We have nano implants. You can put it in your bloodstream, and so that isn't a big deal anymore. So when we compare what we have now to what was going on in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, it's like, that looks really crude. And it was clear that they didn't know what they were doing because the implants would leak, they would rupture, they would, the body would get infected and it would come out, things like that, which obviously they didn't know what the hell they were doing. So again, you've got these aliens that travel millions of light years and fold space, but they can't figure out how to put an implant in the human body without the human body rejecting it. They're that much of idiots. So why have aliens seemingly mastered the science of implants at the same rate as humans? Because obviously, if we were to talk about implants now, we don't talk about aliens implanting us now. When people talk about aliens implanting you, they talk about implanting chakras in you. Well, that has nothing to do with big, bulky metal things in your... This is something that has to do with energy. Now, I'm not saying that aliens implant chakras. I don't believe that. But I'm talking about this is the mindset people have because our technology has advanced. So we think differently. So when we think about a technology that's far beyond our own, we don't think about bulky implants. We think about they're energetically implanting us with frequencies and with chakras, and and it becomes spiritualized, which makes more sense. But that isn't the way we were talking back in the 80s. Let's talk about what are MILABs, military abductions, and how are they connected to alien abductions. So military abductions are people who have been abducted by Dark Force, Black Project, military, unauthorized military people and organizations, and they abduct people and they experiment on them and do psyops on them, and MK Ultra and all that kind of stuff. So what does this have to do with alien abductions? Link below, there's a guy who explains it better than I'm prepared to do about how there is proof out there, or at least according to him, there is proof out there that military abductions are, in fact, the people who are doing alien abductions. And so this isn't about aliens, this is about human beings getting, being able to experiment on humans and do psychological operations on humans under the radar. And it's so crazy, somebody comes out and says, I was abducted. If they came out and said, I was abducted by humans who did all this advanced technology, then that's believable. But if you come out and you say, I was abducted by these big-eyed gray aliens who, did all kinds of things to me, then people say you're crazy. And so nobody pays attention to them. But at the same time, it's being promoted on movies, on television, on documentaries, on in books, and it's being promoted, very strongly. ufology people. I'm an alien. Excuse me, not alien. Forgive me. I am an extraterrestrial contactee. I have extensive experience with contact with extraterrestrials. And I forgot what I was saying. It'll come back to me. Anyway, let's keep going. So military abductions, how are they connected to alien abductions? So there are people who have been abducted by aliens who have discovered that they weren't being abducted by aliens at all. And I'll give you one example. I wish I had the link for it. It was a video that I saw. But it was a woman who had been one of these alien abductees who is abducted on a regular basis. This happens a lot. There's a lot of people that say that they've been abducted their whole lives. Whitley Strieber says he's been abducted since he was a child. We all know that MK Ultra and things like that, they get children and they program them from their youth on up into adulthood. And many of these people, after they've been programmed, then they're given very lucrative careers, at the top of their field. You can put two and two together. I'm not going to make any accusations here. But one woman who was one of these people that was regularly abducted by aliens, and what would happen is that she would all of a sudden feel this energy hit her, and she would go into a catatonic state, and she wouldn't be able to move or think, and then aliens would come down in and come through the ceiling and walk through the wall and walk up to her, and they would grab her, and then they would levitate her, out the door or up through the roof, and then they would levitate her up into the ship, and then they would do all the things that normally happens. And then she would wake up the next day with, missing time and all that same stuff, right? And so one day she was in her house and it started happening. She could hear the sounds, and the thing about, according to the media, what aliens do is they will show up and they will blast light into the house. Like they will blind you. Don't believe me? Watch Whitley Strieber's movies. That's one of the ways they know they're about to get abducted, is that big lights will flash into the house and it'll be so bright, even in the middle of the night, you won't be able to see. The light will be so intense. So for some reason, aliens need to do that. So according to her, that happened. She was going catatonic. Lights come in. She hears the sound that she's always heard just before she's being abducted. And like always before, the gray aliens start coming through the roof and start coming through the walls. And they're coming at her. And then all of a sudden she hears what sounds like machinery breaking. And then the sound stops. And then she gets her senses back. And then she looks in front of her, and what was just a second ago was a big alien walking toward her. It's a human being in military fatigues. And they stop. And they realize that something's up, and they begin backing away, and they tell her, stay there. Don't follow us. They go through the door. They don't fly up through the ceiling or magically go through the wall. They walk out the door, and then they get into a Black Hawk helicopter and take off. And from that moment on, she knew what was going on, that alien abductions were actually military abductions. So let's talk about the first reported alien abduction in 1962. And this featured aliens who were complete morons who didn't know how to test for pregnancy and couldn't understand the concept of humans wearing dentures. The reason why I bring this out is because the Betty and Barney Hill abduction event. I talk about this in my book. If you want to go get my books, you can go to michaelwilliamdenney.com or michaeldenney.org and you'll get a link to my books. And in there I talk about this exact thing, and I go through anyway, I don't hem and haw like I'm talking now. I've got it listed out exactly to make you think clearly that there's no such thing as alien abductions. These are human beings. But the Betty and Barney Hill abduction event is touted by ufologists and touted by abductees to prove that, this has been going on a long time. Whitley Strieber refers to it, but clearly Whitley Strieber hasn't done his homework on this abduction. Because what happened in this abduction proves just the details of the abduction proves that this was done by humans. And it proves that the abductions are done for medical experimentation as well as psychological experimentation. And so same kinds of things happen. Betty and Barney Hill, they get struck by some kind of energy beam that makes them incapable of doing anything or going anywhere. And they're led onto a ship. And on that ship, there are these gray aliens. Now, these gray aliens are complete idiots. And one of the things that they do is they split them up. They put the husband in one room and they put the wife in another room. And so when they're experimenting on the wife, they get out this huge hypodermic needle. And she's scared out of her mind. Oh my God, what is he going to do with that needle? And he says, don't worry, this isn't going to hurt. He waves his hand magically, so it's not going to hurt. And then he puts this huge needle into her navel, and it does hurt. And she screams. And then he does something. He waves his hand, and then I guess all of a sudden it didn't hurt anymore. And when she asks, "What are you doing?" he says, "We're testing to see if you're pregnant." So just that in and of itself. Now in the 1960s, 1962, there was no way to test for pregnancy. So people in 1962 would go, "Oh, yeah, aliens from another planet. They're more technologically advanced. Oh, they know how to, use needles to test for pregnancy." But that's so ridiculous now. We can, you can do that. take it home and pee in a cup and you can find out if you're pregnant. It's incredibly simple, and it's very non-invasive. And that's human technology. So how is it that humans now, just a few decades later, have technology that's far more advanced than beings who supposedly came from Zeta Reticuli and came hundreds or thousands of light years and folded space and got here, but they can't figure out how to, they don't have some electronic device to see if you're pregnant or not? It's absolutely ridiculous. They didn't have x-rays. They didn't have some kind of, x-ray device where they could see into your... it's just absolutely ridiculous. And then there's a bunch of other things. If you go and research the actual abduction experience, these aliens are complete idiots. And really what's going on, it's human beings pretending, well, what would an alien... aliens don't know anything about humans, right? And so they supposedly didn't know what dentures were. I don't know who had dentures. Maybe it was Barney who had dentures or something. And they were like, what are dentures? And there was a bunch of other things there. What is this? They're so clueless. We're from another star system. We're not human. We don't know what these things are. They're just complete, total, utter morons. And if you look at that, it's preposterous to think that if that was a real event, it is preposterous to believe that they are from an advanced civilization. Because supposedly what we're being told, you hear this all the time from the so-called fake whistleblowers that go on and say, they're doing alien UFO retrievals, and the Tic Tacs are doing things that no human technology can do. That's to make you, because they don't want you to know that human beings have anti-grav technology. So they say, we don't have this technology. But now when you look back, that's what they were saying in 1962. We don't have the technology to figure out if you're pregnant or not. So using a needle, oh my God, that's ingenious. Nowadays, the thought of using a giant hypodermic needle to take out your amniotic fluid, to test it, to see if you're pregnant, take it in a lab and test it, that is so primitive. Obviously not coming from an advanced civilization. All right, so why have aliens' science seemingly evolved at the exact same rate as human technology? That's my point. 10 years later, in the early 1970s, guess how they started testing for pregnancy? They would take a hypodermic needle, stick it in your navel, and pull out amniotic fluid. And then very soon after that, they learned how to test for pregnancy in a non-invasive way. But I find it very interesting that here you have these so-called aliens who don't know what dentures are, and they can't figure out, what this and that is, and they use a hypodermic needle and take out amniotic fluid. And humans have never heard about that, and then 10 years later, medicine decides, what we're going to do is use a hypodermic needle and test amniotic fluid. So, human beings just seem to be a few years ahead of these aliens. And so you don't find that a little suspicious? So why have aliens' science seemingly evolved at the exact same rate as human technology? And what does all of this mean for what the dark forces have planned in the future? So now that we know that because this is not all that different from the kinds of implants that were getting pulled out of people, 30, 40 years ago. And now they're openly talking about it. And they're talking about it, that this is a great way to give you authentication, access to all of your stuff. Just think, you don't have to have a key. You don't have to have an ATM card. You don't have to have a password. You don't have to have anything. You just have to have this. And then you can get access to all your stuff. Isn't that great? All in one spot. We're doing this for you because we want to help you. We're going to give this to you for free, just like we gave you the for free. Yeah, we love giving free stuff out to people. And if you don't like that, not a problem. Just take a vitamin pill every day. How come the ETs didn't, or the aliens didn't know how to just, make you swallow a vitamin pill? How come they had to stick some big bulky thing into your foot or into your jaw or whatever the hell it was that they were doing? They're trying all these different ways they were trying. It's because they were experimenting on how to do this, because they knew that decades in the future they would be where we are now. And now that they've experimented on it, it's ready. Why do you think now that all of a sudden all of the UFOs are showing up? Why there's the drones and the UFOs, and now you're hearing the government and the Pentagon in Congress talking about how non-human intelligences exist and they have technology far beyond ours and they're a threat to our airspace? Because it was planned this whole time. It means that they've come to the end of their experimentation and they're ready to implement this. I could get into all the other stuff, like what happened with the fires at Lahaina, what happened in Los Angeles, what's happened with all of the freak storms that are destroying everything in the world. It's all coming together, unless we wake up. If we wake up, their plans fall apart. All right, so is there anything else I wanted to talk about? No, that was it. All right, so if you want to know what extraterrestrials really are, you can. You can communicate directly with extraterrestrials. You can, sometimes you can even have alien spaceships show up, actual extraterrestrial ships. Not the human pretending to be aliens. You can have an interaction and communicate with them. They are not anything like what you've been shown. They are beings that operate on a higher frequency than ours. And I talk all about, once you understand what Earth is, because most humans don't, we think what we experience is what the whole universe is, and that's not accurate. Our third dimensional Earth is a very unique environment, and the rest of the cosmos does not operate in the same frequency that we on third dimensional planet Earth do. And other civilizations that do exist, infinite numbers of civilizations throughout our universe and throughout the multiverse, they exist, but they exist in a higher frequency. And things are much different in higher frequencies than they are in the third dimensional frequency. This is another way you know the difference between an actual extraterrestrial encounter and a fake alien encounter, because the fake alien encounters, even though there's some things that that are beyond our scientific understanding and may involve things like telepathy, and levitation and things like that, it's still a third dimensional experience. The woman that I talked to, who was abducted, the aliens were physical beings walking around that you could touch. People have talked about that. If you go back, you hear, the further back in time you go, the more you hear this kind of a thing, where the aliens, when you touch them, they didn't feel human. They felt like dolls. They felt leathery. It felt artificial. When they moved like robots. They moved like insects. They moved in ways that were uncomfortable to watch. They had jerky motions like that. And those are all obviously third dimensional experiences of people who were experimenting with how to manufacture fake aliens. They got better with time. The alien experiences, alien abduction experiences now are getting more sophisticated because humans are getting more sophisticated in their technology. But they're all within a third dimensional experience, physical third dimension. When you interact with true extraterrestrials, it's not going to be a third dimensional experience. They can interact with the third dimension if they choose to, but for the most part, they don't choose to do that. And when they do, it will be in ways that are beyond human comprehension. Things that obviously are interdimensional. So if you want to have that experience, you can, and you can know firsthand what the real thing is, and then you can compare it to the nonsense that's in movies, in television, in the ufology crowd, books, and all of that. So I have one way that you can do that, and that is Galactic Contact. That's the 10th video. Galactic Contact is a 10-step practical video course where you learn how to communicate with and channel higher dimensional extraterrestrial beings. And you can get that at contact.thunderwizard.com. You can get access to all of those videos. We also do live CE5 guided meditations. We do this every Saturday, where if you want to show up to the channel and go through a live meditation with me and with everybody who's there, you can have an opportunity to contact and communicate with extraterrestrial higher dimensional beings. There's a lot of other stuff that you can get access to. Again, I've written a couple books about it. You can just go on to Google and type in CE5 protocols. The letter C, the letter E, the number 5 protocols. I don't own the copyright on how to contact ETs. I learned it from Dr. Greer's CE5 protocols. It's very simple. Anybody can do it. But I've also found that it's helpful to know energy practices that help the body's meridians and energy system be able to tolerate the power of higher dimensional frequencies. And this is what we do here at thunderwizard.com. You can go and subscribe. When you go to thunderwizard.com, make sure that you click on membership. You see at the bottom there, membership. And when you click on that, you'll see various ways that you can subscribe. And you can also go to the shop. If you look there, you see shop. You click on shop. You will find practices. One in particular is the Awakening the Immortals practice. It's just a very simple Qigong movement practice. And that gets the attention of extraterrestrials. There have been people who do that as a way to connect with them. You can get out your ham radio, walkie-talkie, turn it on, and many people have said this. You do the Awakening the Immortals and the radio will start. That is extraterrestrials telling you that you got their attention and they're there and they want to communicate with you. So there's all kinds of ways that you can do it, and I have techniques that you can use that will allow you to do that. So that's it. Thank you so much for showing up. The thing that I would like everybody watching to do, no matter who you are, is come every Saturday to this channel, 8:30 p.m. Eastern, for the live guided CE5 meditation. They're archived, so if you go to the live section on my YouTube channel, you can listen to any of them. We do them a lot. We also do the live guided interdimensional meditation, which we do every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Saturday is now CE5, but the interdimensional meditations is a deeper, more nuanced astral travel where we go out and not only do we communicate with ETs, they might even take us to their home world, and you can check that out. That's also a very powerful way to connect on higher dimensional levels, and it's free to everybody. I hope you all show up. And what else? Was there anything else that I want to talk about? So yeah, we've got a really special meditation tonight. We are going to be doing a meditation to invoke the goddess Sekhmet. And yeah, we'll talk about that tonight at 8:30. That'll be a lot of fun. All right, so that's it, my friends. Just know that whenever you're dealing with supposed new stuff that's going on with AI chatbots, the stuff that's going on with the new technology that's supposed to make your life more simple, just know that
Such sights to show you.
that's who's behind it. All right, my friends, that's it. I love you all. Please be very good to yourselves, and I will see you all very soon.
you.